welcome to day 4 of Vlogmas. I feel like I've had a very productive day so far. I feel like this time of year I can either be in a space where I feel really on top of things, or I feel like things are really on top of me. And it's kind of been the latter for a little bit, and I finally now feel like it's the former, and I'm feeling very organized, and I'm feeling like everything is kind of slotting into place really nicely. I did some yoga this morning. I really love doing yoga first thing in the morning. If I could do it every single day, if I had the time to do it, I would, but I just don't always have the time. I will say that the reality with Vlogmas, as much as it's a fun thing to do and I enjoy taking you guys around, the editing is such a time suck. Like the time that I would usually spend sewing, knitting, reading, doing yoga, I have so much less of it during December. So it's a funny thing where I'm like taking you around in my life, but in my life I'm not usually editing a video every morning for several hours. So having said that, I got up to date and I am now like all my days have gone out that I wanted to. This day is going to be going out on the 4th of December, just like I had planned. So that feels really good. And the other thing that I decided to go ahead and do this morning is to put together a lamp. Now this is kind of like a silly little long saga, but basically the living room here, we've always, like for years, we've never had the best lighting here. We have an overhead light that's fairly bright, and my husband and I both don't really love to have really bright lights when we're just like relaxing and hanging out. And so we got some table lamps last year, it was, I think. And I also had the idea of getting a corner lamp because we have a corner of our living room that's particularly dark, and I often sit over that way to read, to knit, and it's pretty impossible with the lighting that we had. I had like an old, we'd gotten years ago, an IKEA, like an LED spotlight type of light that you can kind of move around and manipulate. And it was bright and it worked, but it was really harsh and I didn't like it. I didn't like to use it. And I had previously wanted to get a corner lamp, but when we got a corner sofa, I felt like those two things just aren't going to work together. I felt like it was a kind of an either or situation. And at some point I peeked over into the corner and realized that actually there is a fair amount of space between the base of the sofa and the wall. And so you could tuck something down there, but there wasn't probably going to be enough space for a lamp shade. And I started looking around and realized that there actually are lamps, corner lamps, that have an arch or kind of go up and over, clearly designed for this kind of situation. And I was like getting quite excited. And so we looked around, my husband and I were looking around at options in November, and there weren't a ton that we liked aesthetically that fit our criteria of fitting into the space, but we did see one on a website for the shop, The Range. Now this shop you guys might be familiar with. It only opened near us recently, and we ordered from them online, not really knowing what the shop was. It opened where a home base used to be, and I figured it was kind of an equivalent. It's like a homeware store basically. And so I thought, well, it'll probably be fine. This one looks good, ordered it. And then we've had a couple of occasions to go to the Range because it's really local and we needed a few things. And basically I've come to the conclusion that it seems to be very cheap, like junky stuff that falls apart pretty quickly. So I probably wouldn't have ordered a lamp from them had I known that prior to ordering the lamp. However, the lamp is good. I'm not going to worry about that. But what I will say is we did have a little bit of a mini drama with ordering it. So I ordered it and then I got an email to say that it was going to be delivered by Every. And when we got the delivery, it was just the lampshade. There was no base to the lamp. So I emailed them to say that, yeah, you're kind of missing half of my order at the very least. And they did email back a little while later after talking to an AI, it's very hard to talk to a human these days. And they agreed to resend the lamp. And I don't know if they were supposed to be resending the whole thing or just the base, probably the whole thing, because I feel like they're not really organized enough to know. If they couldn't send the whole thing in the first place, they're probably not going to understand that I just want half of the order sent to me. Through all of this, it became clear to me that when you order things from the Range on their website, they are not necessarily coming from their company. I mean, I don't know if anything comes from their company. They seem almost just like a hosting website because the every parcel is coming from like a different company. And when I was complaining and saying I didn't get my parcel, they had to check with this other company who were actually shipping it to me. It's all a bit messy. But long story short, we have a lamp. I am very happy with it. I built it this morning and my husband had to help me get it into the place because we had to actually move the couch out just a tiny bit to get it in place. but I do think it works. I was worried that it was too low initially, and it was really, that I was going to be bumping my head all the time. And so I basically just like brought up, there's a section of the cable before the lampshade, and just clipped it into place. And I don't think, you won't notice to look at it, and I think it's totally fine and it seems nice and secure. And my husband's a little bit taller than me, and so both of us basically spent some time sitting in that corner and getting up and going down and getting up, going out, and just double checking, are we going to be bumping our heads? And it was basically impossible for us to bump our heads on it quite where it is, because you really kind of tuck into that corner of the corner sofa, which is one of the things that I really love about it. And it is really good as far as bringing in so much more light. So I am delighted with the outcome. A little bit of a bumpy journey getting there, but that's just an aside. But that was another thing that I ended up doing today. So it's one of those things where we received the package 2 days ago, and because we didn't have time yesterday because we were out, we didn't have time to put it together, and we had these just big bulky boxes around, and it just feels like I've got a bit of a clean slate and things are feeling really good. I'm gonna go ahead now and open my Fabric Godmother Advent present. I feel like I don't know what to call these. And then I will tell you what I've got planned for the rest of the day. So let's go ahead and start with the phone, because that seems to be the way to go. All right, so day 4. Time to take your measurements and cut out or trace preferred the carnation blouse pattern and fabric. The pattern instructions can be found via the QR code on the pattern envelope or use the link below. These will tell you how to work out which size you need to make for the best fit. Top tip, make sure you keep all the scraps of your champagne chic fabric and your interfacing, as you'll be needing these later. Don't worry too much if you don't get it all cut out today. There will be more time to finish this tomorrow. That kind of feels like a bit of a missed gift, because on the day 3 you had a link to the instructions already and I looked at them. Anyway, look, it's fine. I'm generally happy with the outcome. I haven't taken my measurements yet, so I can make that a little project for today to figure out what size I want to cut out, but I'll have to get the fabric that I want to use anyway. I was having a chat with my friend Rachel, who is the French Seams here on YouTube and over on Instagram. And we have met in real life, so we're friends in real life as well as online. And she told me that when she saw me hold up that fabric, she literally gasped because she thought it was so beautiful. And when I think about Rachel and her love of green, her love of like bright and colorful prints on fabrics, and the design of the festive, honestly, like this feels like Rachel's fabric. And so I've told her I'm going to send it over to her because I think she will love it and use it much more than me. So that I think is honestly a really positive outcome, because I would rather that than me like try and figure out something to do with it and then not really love it. So I'm calling it a win. The one goal that I've given myself today is I want to start some Christmas cookies, because I am aware that time is getting on. I am going back to work from next week and I'm going to have a lot less time. I have a short list of the cookies that I want to make this year. I do have some that I need to make as repeats, because I feel like if I don't make those cookies, I'm not welcome at my in-laws' Christmas. Obviously not true, but there are like some firm favorites that I know I have to make. But I like to try new things as well. I like to branch out. And there is the thing that I definitely want to bring that I think looks really Christmassy, is super delicious, and it is red velvet whoopie pies. Now I got this recipe from a cookbook. I'm looking on the shelf, the Hummingbird Bakery Cake Days it is. And I made these, I think for my husband and myself, and then I also made them for the family. I've made them maybe like 2-3 times. They are so delicious. I do love a whoopie pie. It's like a little pie or a little cake that you can eat but with your hands. It's delightful. And these have like a classic red velvet flavors, and they're red of course. And then the filling inside is a cream cheese icing, just like you would put on like a icing for a red velvet cake, but it also has the marshmallow fluff in there, so it's like a cross between like cream cheese and the whoopie pie filling that you would typically get. And I feel like technically these are really probably not cookies, but I'm gonna make them quite small so they'll be bite-sized. So they are definitely cookie-esque. They are like a sandwich cookie that is a cake. Probably getting into that like Jaffa Cakes territory of like, is it a cake and is it a cookie? And probably if we're gonna talk about taxes, we're gonna call it a cake. But as far as Christmas cookie platter, I'm fully calling it a cookie, because you will have that like red at the top and the bottom with the white in the middle. So definitely very Christmassy looking, and these freeze really well. So that's why I want to make them now, because I can make a load up, stick them in the freezer, and the process has then begun, because I have limited time, like I said, and I need to get on it. I have some other ones that freeze well, or I can make in advance, and I'm thinking about making this weekend. But if I can at least just make a start today, I'm gonna feel good. Christmas cookies to me, whether they're like a cookie or a bar or, you know, cake or whatever, there's two categories to me for Christmas cookies. There's the ones that look Christmassy, which this one achieves, and then there's the ones that taste Christmassy, that have like a gingerbread or a peppermint flavor. And I like both, and I like to have a mix of both, but I don't feel like they all have to hit all those marks at once. So yeah, feeling good that that should hopefully be able to happen today. I bought some ingredients for it this morning, so I should be good to go. And we'll see what goes on with the rest of the day. I'm not feeling overly ambitious with doing too much else, because let's be honest, I've done fair enough already. I am going to be making it's like a casserole that is very much like a good warm filling food with some leftover Thanksgiving turkey. I still have turkey. I ended up putting a load of shredded turkey in the freezer because I didn't think I was going to be able to make it all up in time, because I had other things going on. And so I'm going to be making, it's called turkey Tetrazzini. It's my grandma's recipe, my mom's recipe, and it makes me think of her, and it's one of my husband's absolute favorites. It's like a very old-fashioned recipe. I'll put it down below if you guys want to check it out. But basically, it's like noodles mixed with a sauce that uses like chicken broth, no, cream of chicken soup, cream of celery soup, which I don't have access to in the UK, so I have to go for cream of chicken again. There's some wine, there's mayonnaise, which is how you know it's like an old-fashioned recipe, and it's sprinkled with the shredded chicken or turkey, whatever you've got, and then some parmesan on top, I believe. But like I said, I'll put the recipe down below if you want to try it. But it's a great one to use leftover turkey or chicken, and we will often buy a rotisserie chicken for dinner and then just use leftovers to make this one. And the great thing about this is it also makes good leftovers, so we can have it now and we can have it later, which is a bonus. I'm very into my leftovers at the moment. I'm really appreciating when you can put the work in. A lot of people talk about like meal planning, and you can think of it as that if you want to, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just making some good leftovers that heat up really well. So those are my like big things that I want to do at some point today, but I'm also hoping to have a little bit of downtime to hang out with my husband, because it's been a little bit busy. But we'll see how we go and see how long it takes to whip these whoopie pies up. That feels like a tongue twister, whipping up whoopie pies. I'll see you in the kitchen.
So in the way that things often go, I got everything out to start my baking and realized I didn't have enough food coloring, because it actually calls for a lot. It's like 30 mils of red food coloring for like a single batch, which I get because it is hard to get that really intense red color, which is really quite important for my whole look of my Christmas cookie platter. And I actually wanted to do a double batch because I'm worried I'm not going to have enough. And I certainly don't have 60 mils. I think I looked and I have like 12 mils, which is, we're far from where we need to be. So I've decided to go to Waitrose. This is my third supermarket of the day. I'm not loving it. This morning, my husband and I needed to go grocery shopping. We went to Sainsbury's, which is where we usually go, and they didn't have marshmallow fluff, another key ingredient for my whoopie pies. So we ended up going to Asda, which is owned by Walmart, thinking they have a better chance of having it because it's an American thing, and they did, which is great. And then now here I am trying to get red food coloring. I could have gone to those other shops, but I feel like Waitrose feels more likely to have it. If not, I'll have to decide which one I then want to try, but fingers crossed I get what I need. And I'm also going to get more butter just to be on the safe side, because I don't want to realize I don't have enough butter for a double batch. That would be the only thing potentially missing. So here we go.
Success. I was worried at first I was gonna have to get like a big multi-pack and have to get like 4 of them to have enough, but they had their own just red. So I got 4 of the red, got some butter, we're good to go. Right, so far so good. I'm really happy with how this batter is looking. It is pretty thick, and you're meant to just spoon them onto a little piece of parchment paper on a baking sheet, and then you can round them off. But I feel like it's going to be quicker and it's going to be neater if I do it with a piping bag. I just don't know if this is going to go through a piping bag very easily. I'm going to try and have a big opening because it doesn't need to be like that neat. It's more about just getting the certain quantity down. So we'll see how it goes. And then one of my favorite tips is that if you get your fingers wet, you can reshape. So there has been a little bit of experimenting, and what I have found, definitely I think piping was the way to go. That 100% I feel like made it so much easier to make little specific size blobs. Before you squish them down though, it kept coming through my head that they look a little bit like a certain emoji, but then they look a little better, at least when you squash them. And when they cook up, obviously, they look just lovely and round. I basically got a little bit of a rhythm going where I let one cool on the bottom and then I can put the next ones on the top tray. As I take them out when they're fully cooled, I'm actually just pairing them up by size. So I'm finding ones that will go together. I'm gonna have a lot of these. It's not a bad problem to have. The only problem, well, the big problem really, is that I forgot that I needed to defrost my freezer. And I'm about to put a lot of stuff into it. So I need to have a chat with my husband and see what we can do. There's not loads in there, but there's enough in there that I don't want to throw away. So we're gonna have to just see if we can try and fudge it, or if I'm gonna have to do that kind of a bit more urgently. Other than that though, it's going really well. I've just got like a portion of a batch to go in next, not a full batch, which is great. Total of 99 whoopie pies, but there was actually one of the whoopie pie halves that fell onto the draining board and it was dirty and I couldn't salvage that one, so that was goodbye. And then I had one that fell onto the countertop. I had actually cleaned and disinfected the countertop before I started baking, which I'm very happy about because quite a few of them were actually slipping through my racks that I would use to cool them off. And those were fine because I knew the countertop was fine, but one of them fell when it was still hot and I didn't realize, and it ended up sticking to the top, and when I pulled it off, it had lost a portion of it, so I decided that one just had to be a taster one. It tasted very good, but I haven't actually tasted it with the cream cheese frosting. I actually did taste that on its own and it tastes so good. So I'm really excited to try them together. I am gonna end up giving one to my husband and keeping one to try tonight because you gotta know if they're okay, definitely. I'm not gonna be serving them to my family as a bit of a mystery. I'm sure they're gonna be good. But also my husband, while I've been baking all day, he's been in the other room recording a song for Vlogmas. So if you guys are not aware, my husband is a musician and he's very talented and he's very kind and has recorded all of the music that I use across my Vlogmas videos. I feel so lucky to have bespoke music for me that's not gonna get any copyright infringement and all that. And he has an aim to make one more a year for the last couple of years. And this year, he intended to do it in November, and I mean, I'm sure you guys can all relate. I don't know where November went. It was just like we blinked and it was gone. And so he's like trying to find a little bit of time. This seemed like a good opportunity, and he definitely deserves a whoopie pie as a thank you for that. At least one whoopie pie. So I'm really happy with all of these. We do have like 2 Christmas get-togethers going, so I'm not sure if I mentioned, I don't think so, but I'm working on Christmas Day. I'm a midwife, we all take turns working, so I'm working on Christmas Day, but we are getting together with my husband's family on Boxing Day, and that's actually worked out quite well because my husband's older brother also is going to be with his wife's family on Christmas Day, so they weren't going to be able to come until Boxing Day either. So we're all going to get together on the 26th and basically treat that like Christmas Day. So that's what these babies are going to be for. But then the next day, we have some of my husband's family who live in Ireland who are going to be over visiting, and it's going to be a much bigger group of people. So let me count how many across the 2 days. So Boxing Day, like our kind of fake Christmas, is going to have 8 of us. And then the day after that, there's going to be, I'm counting 14. I could be wrong, but basically I need to have plenty of cookies, and there are good eaters in the family who I know are going to be helping. So I'm glad that I made a double batch. Honestly, if I had only made 50, I would have felt unsure if it was enough. I know it sounds wild, but for Christmas, I always want to make sure that there's ample, that there's more than enough. And I think this was a good first one to do. I will say they don't look that red, and that's always the case with, I think, whoopie pies, not whoopie pies, with red velvet cake. There's obviously a dye that bakeries use to make them ultra red, but they definitely have a red hue. They're not like fully brown. And either way, honestly, if they taste great, I don't really care. I don't need all of my Christmas cookies to look Christmassy, but I'm really happy with how these went together. Now it's gotten to basically time I need to start making my dinner. So I'm gonna make some dinner, and then while it's in the oven, because this one takes a little while in the oven, I might have a little sneaky cup of tea and a whoopie pie and share that with my husband, and we'll have some dinner and then have some nice chilled out time this evening because I definitely feel like I need it. I'll be checking in with you guys again tomorrow, and I hope you tune in again. I hope you enjoyed today. Thank you also to all the people who have been commenting on my Vlogmas. I feel like it gets so busy. I know I'm not going to be able to reply to all the comments, so I'm really sorry if I don't actually give you a reply. I'm reading them all, and it really does keep me going because it is quite a full-on month. And thanks again to all of you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.